There's an interesting question that often people ask. There is this word that the Torah uses all the time in our parsha with regards to the hardening of Pharaoh's heart. The Egyptian king kept hardening his heart, kaved. The same word, or at least maybe it's a homonym, but maybe it's the same root. At least it sounds the same. The same word can mean liver, kaved. Also, interestingly, the same root seems to have to do with glory, kavod, honor and glory. So we have three apparently meanings that may or may not relate to each other. Kaved, from something heavy, make the heart hard, right? Make it heavy, and very, very hard, harden his heart. And we have the another connotation of glory and also liver. Are these three meanings related to each other, possibly? So there is an interesting understanding that the son of the author of Aruch HaShulchan, one of the greatest halachic authorities for Ashkenazic Jews, besides the author of Mishnah Brura, was Aruch HaShulchan. He lived around the same place in what is called White Russia, Belarus. Today it's a separate country. At that time, I think it was part of Poland, and before that it was part of a Russian Empire. Poland was part of Russia before World War I. After World War I, Poland became an independent state, but Belarus was always somewhere in between. And of course, during the Soviet times, Belarus was a separate republic in the Soviet Union. And later, when the Soviet Union broke down, it became a separate country as it is today. So there are a lot of great sages who lived in Belarus, including some of the greatest halachic authorities, the authorities of Jewish law, including the author of Aruch HaShulchan, Rav Yechiel Michael Epstein, and his son, Rabbi Baruch Epstein, who died in the beginning of World War II. So this great righteous person wrote mostly commentaries on the Torah. Something called Torah Tmima is his book. If you saw that in the synagogues. There's a different book that's less known that he called Tosefet Bracha, and addition of Bracha. I guess because his name was Baruch, he kept calling some of his books with the word Baruch in some way, blessed. So the additional blessing, something like this. So Tosefet Bracha is not a very common book. I don't think I've seen it in synagogues, but it's available in certain programs that collect Jewish books. I saw this actually as a quote by a different book called Ateret Hamikra. He quotes Tosefet Bracha. And he says the following, that regular meat, if you cook it, it becomes usually softer, right? On the other hand, liver, if you cook it a lot, it becomes actually hard. So that's why he says the idea is that as Pharaoh was getting more and more punished, he actually hardened his heart even more. When he was punished more, he was hardening his heart as he was punished. You'd think, right, that after the first few plagues, he should release the Jewish people. But no. So I might add to this that the word kavod, honor, also has to do with it. A lot of it has to do with the fact that he couldn't recognize, he couldn't admit that some lowly Jews, these Hebrews, are able to be or their God is stronger than what he first of all, according to Chazal, made himself into a kind of God. Pharaoh was worshipped as a kind of God, and there's actually in Haftorah of this week's parsha from the prophet Yechezkel, he says that the Pharaoh is compared to a crocodile that sits in his own Nile river and says, "The river is mine, and I made myself." I'm self-made bad. So it was very hard for Pharaoh to admit that some lowly Hebrews and their God could overpower him. To admit the defeat was not something they ever do. It reminds of someone else, right now, and not just someone else. Very big groups in the Middle East generally never admit defeat. No matter what happens, they're the ones always winning. So right now, I'm recording this video on the day when we're hoping to see 3 of our sisters come back from this terrible hell, the Gehinnom they were in for more than a year. And it's through tremendous pressure, including from Trump administration, even though Joe Biden doesn't want to admit it, but at least part of the pressure, and at least one of the reasons this deal went through. And Hamas wasn't willing to, even after all the terrible suffering that is going on in Gaza, they're still not willing to release the hostages. It's only through the tremendous pressure that they actually went for this deal. And at least part of it seems to be Trump's future administration. Whatever the case may be, I'm not going to go into politics. It doesn't really matter. The point of the matter is that finally, 3 women that went through this hell are going to come back today, Bezrat Hashem. We're hoping and praying that we'll see them alive and that they'll be able to somehow be treated and be able to become productive members of society again. I'm sure they'll need a lot of psychological treatment after what they've been through. But the point is that the reason it's so hard to deal with these monsters is because they are like Pharaoh at that time. They just harden their heart, and the kavod, the tremendous glory, is most important to them. So they're celebrating a victory, right? That is a victory for them. Their plans were to capture Jerusalem, to take over the army bases, to take the nuclear weapons that Israel has in Dimona. That was the plan that Hamas had. And now they don't even have the borders they had before the 7th of October. Israel is deciding who's going to go into north. Israel is controlling their border with Egypt. There's probably going to be a buffer zone. And with all that, they're celebrating victory. This is victory for them. So the point is that with these monsters, there's no way to psychologically win over them, because they'll always say they won. Even if there's one Hamas member left, he's going to say Hamas won, because Israel did destroy every single Hamas member. There's no way to win over them. Even the Nazis in the end, of course Hitler committed suicide, but basically the Nazis had to sign a capitulation. Even the Japanese, which was a very proud nation too, but after the atomic bomb, they did sign that they're capitulating. There's pretty much nobody there in Hamas land to sign anything like that. So I don't think Israel should ever put a goal to destroy Hamas. There's really no such thing. Okay, you'll destroy Hamas, it'll be a different group that calls themselves differently, but has the same thing. And what needs to be is a change from the whole world to educate the new generation of the people living there to live in peace. And that, it's not going to happen if Israel simply kills those people who right now are carrying the weapons. It's very hard altogether in Gaza to distinguish between those who are carrying the weapons right now and those who don't. Most of the Hamas members throughout this war were not wearing the uniform and looked like regular people. And all of a sudden they would take out an automatic weapon and start shooting. So the point is that I don't think Israel should place a goal to destroy Hamas completely at this point. What they need to do is work together with the American administration and hopefully have some kind of a plan for the future. And as soon as they see if Hamas is trying to rearm, they'll just strike them from the air. And that's much better than losing more soldiers and continuing this war indefinitely. So in my opinion, this is a great deal for Israel. Israel should be celebrating that they're able to save at least some of the hostages and that all this pressure in the end yielded some results. But it's very, very hard when you deal with those who are similar to Pharaoh or even worse. These people are too proud and they are getting only harder. The more you strike them, the more they will be willing to fight. They'll just never admit the defeat. So it's a very interesting situation right now. While Israel should be the one that should be celebrating a full and complete victory, right, over Hezbollah, over Hamas, soon probably over the Houthis in Yemen. Same thing, by the way. Houthis, right? They don't stop even now. They're still sending rockets to Israel, lethal rockets that could kill many people if they are not going to be intercepted. And the point is, there's no way to hope a full victory here. At least with the Israeli forces, they cannot really fight all of these. But what they can do is they can definitely say that we've accomplished a lot. And Iran is weakened, and certainly the time for Houthis is coming, and I'm hoping with the new American administration that will be much more decisive in the fight with the Houthis. I mean, it's already becoming better and better over time. In the beginning, America and England just did nothing most of the time. And for almost a year, Houthis could do whatever they want. I think now they're going to work with other parts of Yemen to liberate all the territory that the Houthi rebels are holding right now, and that could actually work if America and England and others will help them, because there was already an attempt by Saudi Arabia to get rid of Houthis, but it didn't work too well. There were hundreds of thousands of deaths, but Houthis still remained. But in general, there are enough forces in Yemen and other parts of Yemen that could, if Americans will help, take over. But the point is, like I said, the goal is that we have to understand that these people, they're never going to admit a defeat. That's how it's always going to be. They think they won. Iran says that it's 90% done. Israel is almost destroyed. As far as they're concerned, now it's 90% done. It's just 10% left. So whatever they say, they will always say these types of things. Egypt still celebrates how they won, as they think they won the war with Israel during Yom Kippur War. Iran and Iraq are still celebrating each side that they won the war with each other. So in these parts of the world, the kavod, the glory is so important that people never admit any kind of defeat, and they always win as far as they're concerned. Now, of course, any thinking person will realize that this is very far from winning for Hamas, whatever they're left with right now, and what they're going to have in the future. And if they're going to try to rearm again, Israel is going to be a lot more vigilant than they were before October 7th. So certainly now they're not going to be caught by surprise like this, when there were like 2 helicopters and thousands and thousands of armies of Hamas were coming into basically regular kibbutzim and regular places where people were just celebrating, and there were like maybe a few policemen who were trying to stop them. So, of course, when the army is taking a day off, you're going to have over 1,000 people killed. But if the army does its job, then certainly Israel can have a future. And the army right now is far greater prepared for anything like this. And it's going to be like that even 10 years from now, 20 years from now. So I'm hoping, Bezrat Hashem, there won't be something similar to October 7th anytime soon. So the fact that they were able to redeem at least the captives right now, whoever they can redeem, I think it's a great celebration for Israel. And I'm hoping that more captives would be able to be redeemed in the future. So today we're waiting for 3 of our sisters, three Jewish women who went through real hell to come back, and I'm hoping they're going to come back alive, and that they will be able to get enough psychological help to become normal again and to live a normal life, more or less. I mean, to the extent that it's possible after all this. May Hashem help all of us. And if you like this video, please press like and please subscribe to our channel.